Hello everyone, it's NotaNoobPat and welcome to Perk Review. Today we're taking a look at the level 40 Blight Perk, Hex Undying. The main attraction is that if another Hex Totem is cleansed while Hex Undying is active, the other Hex Totem will be transferred to a Dull Totem if one is available. The only caveat is that the Hex will lose its tokens. The other aspect is when Undying is active, survivors within 2 meters of any totem, Dull, or Hex will have their auras revealed for 6 seconds. The pros are that this can help some Hex Totems stay standing all game because the Hex will keep moving so long as Undying is still active, so you could hypothetically have a Hex like Ruin cleanse 3 separate times and it would still be active. The other pro is that auras help you keep an eye on your totems because you will see the survivor's auras when they go to cleanse them. The cons are that this perk doesn't have synergy with all of the Hex perks. Huntress Lullaby, Third Seal, and Devour Hope's tokens would reset in this case, meaning that they're not necessarily the best fit with this perk. Then, this Hex can still be weak. It is completely luck based. If Undying is cleansed first, that means no auras for the rest of the game, and your other Hex Totem won't transfer positions if it's cleansed as well. Let's get into our video demonstration. Let's first look at the aura reading of this perk. When a survivor is within 2 meters of any totem, Dull, or Hex, their auras will be revealed for 6 seconds, and this is what that looks like. This is obviously very helpful for trying to defend your Hex Totems, or even your Dull Totems that you need for your Hex Totems to transfer to. Let's cover what happens if your Undying is cleansed first. You can see that Undying will go from lit to unlit in the perk window when the Hex is cleansed. This means you will no longer see auras and your other Hex Totems will no longer be protected. You can see this indicated when a survivor goes over to the other Hex and cleanses Hex Ruin afterwards. You can see that this Hex Totem also becomes unlit in the perk window, and that signifies that it's deactivated. However, let's see what happens in this example when the survivor cleanses Hex Ruin while Hex Undying is active. You can see that the survivor is going to cleanse a lit Hex Totem, but what happens? Hex Undying transfers Ruin to an unlit totem somewhere else, and as you see in the perk window, both Hex perks will remain lit. Due to the aura, you can see that the survivor is on the Hex Totem and they will cleanse it. Then I really like this example which displays Hex Undying because you will actually be able to see the Hex Totem change in this one. Look closely here. As soon as the Hex is cleansed, you can see the aura of the transferred Hex near the furthest generator in this shot. You can also tell now that Undying is the totem in the Killer Shack since that is the totem that hasn't been moving. The survivor now cleanses Undying in the Killer Shack and you will see the perk icon in the perk window will now become unlit. Again, with no Undying, Hex Ruin won't transfer again. It is finally cleansed and you can see now that both perk icons are now unlit in the perk window. Now that we know how this perk works, let's get into our video examples. We will start by highlighting the aura reading of this perk. I load into the game with Mikey where I am going into tier 1 so I don't emit a terror radius. I quickly survey the map to see where my Hex Totems are at. I get temporarily distracted by the holiday event item, and what do I see in the corner of my eye? I see a survivor's aura getting on one of my Hex Totems. Without a terror radius, I am able to sneak over and grab the survivor directly off of my totem and get an easy hook to start the game. In this next example, a survivor is trying to loop me around this wall, but I have this perk and there is a Dull Totem that allows me to see the survivor's aura and that they actually double back. This allows the chase to be much shorter than what it could have been and I get another easy hook. Then I use my barbecue to see where all the survivors are at. 2 of them head in the same direction, then Undying comes in clutch again as I see both of them dancing around and fighting for who gets to cleanse this Hex Totem. I have my Mikey close to tier 3, and this Steve makes the wrong decision of running at me trying to loop the Combine, and I immediately tier up and put him into the dying state. As you can see, the aura reading of this perk may not be the main attraction, but it certainly is helpful as well. Now let's get into a full game where I display the power of Undying. My most exposed Hex is right in the middle of the field, but the other Hex isn't much better because it is in the typical Killer Shack spot. I also see that a survivor in the distance is cleansing a Dull Totem, and I will head over there since I want to defend it since I need Dull Totems for Undying to work and transfer a Hex to a new Dull Totem. You can see that I used the aura to get a hit in on Nia. The game is surprisingly proceeding as normal and no one has found a totem yet as I down this Claudette. I am downing survivors, running them off of generators, letting Ruin do its work, and just keep looking for auras to pop up on any of my totems. Right here, you can see that my Killer Shack totem is going to end up being Ruin. I end up finishing this chase around the pig tree with Fang, but I was distracted and you will hear what happens next. Right there, you could see that I caught Adam going for the unhook, but you also heard that my Hex Totem in the Killer Shack was also cleansed. But now, I know my Undying is the Hex Totem in the middle, and as long as I keep it standing, Ruin will transfer to another unlit totem, and that's what happens as I point out the new Hex Totem placement while chasing this Claudette. I am guarding my middle Undying Hex when I see a survivor move on the recently moved Hex Ruin. I decide to go over and the Claudette tries to run away, but it's too late for them and I easily put them into the dying state. Unfortunately, as soon as I pick them up, I see a survivor sprint over to the middle Hex and start cleansing it. However, it's not all bad news here. I put the Claudette on their death hook, then immediately go get revenge on the Adam who took my Hex Undying from me. I'm also able to put this Adam on his death hook, meaning it's 2 survivors with 4 generators left. They obviously have 2 more generators for the hatch to even spawn on the map. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen for them, as you can see. I shut the hatch and I couldn't find the survivor crawling around on the ground, but you can see that my Hex Ruin is still standing right here and this perk did its job in this game. Finally, I want to mention something minor. It is not an issue in most games, but it is worth bringing up as a survivor counter to this perk. You can see that I run through this jungle gym and I spot another dull totem. Right now, I'm searching for Hex Totems, so I temporarily ignore it. I continue to make my way back to the Killer Shack where I actually find the lit totem. I'm going to go ahead and cleanse this Hex Totem, but my cursed icon on the right does not disappear after I cleanse the Hex, meaning that I still know that there is a Hex affecting me this game. So where do I go? Obviously, I just saw an unlit totem right before this. My hunch is correct, as you can see that the Undying has now transferred the Hex Ruin to this previously unlit totem. Since many survivors know about Undying, they will just cleanse all of the totems so they don't have to worry about Undying transferring the Hex, or they will be like me here. They will remember where the unlit totems are at and they will go back to them and cleanse them if they become lit. Let's give this perk a grade. Hex Undying is a 7.5 out of 10. As you heard during the video, I gushed about this perk. It gave new life to certain Hex Totems like Ruin. Before, Ruin could be cleansed 30 seconds into a game because of bad Hex placement. Now, if the survivors do find your Ruin right off the bat, Undying will protect you and move Ruin to a new spot. However, why is this perk a 7.5 out of 10 if I like it so much? This perk still is luck dependent like any other Hex. If the survivors were to find your Hex Undying right at the start, then you will have a dead perk slot the rest of the game. However, the risk is worth the reward with this Hex perk. The red auras for this perk should help you guard your hexes more efficiently, and hopefully the survivors will cleanse your other Hex Totem first, so Undying can transfer that Hex to a new spot. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like. If you want to check out more perk review, make sure to look for the links in the description and visit my channel to subscribe. I also stream twice a week on Twitch if you want to stop by. Take it easy.